everybody? So today I wanted to make a video about attachment styles because I think it's very important for everybody to learn what your attachment style is, and it's different from person to person. I feel if you healed, but if you didn't heal, you have a default attachment style that you use for everybody, but that might not always be the case. But we're gonna get into all of that, okay? But I already made this video before and I was drinking and I feel like I was not articulating myself the way I wanted to, so we're doing it again just because I want to make it easier to understand. But yeah, we're in the right mind state today, so let's talk about it. So of course I've been trying to deep dive into my mind for a few years now, and recently I found out about attachment styles. Maybe not too recent, but recent enough, and I was like, you know what, like I really want to deep dive into this because I feel like it will be beneficial for me. And attachment styles come from your childhood, obviously. What doesn't? And it's the way you attach yourselves to people. Like I knew about codependency and stuff like that, and detachment. A lot of people say I'm detached. We'll get into that. I knew about codependency and stuff like that, but it gets deep. Like there's layers to everything. There's layers to this shit. Okay, so buckle up. We're gonna talk about it. So there's different attachment styles. We got the anxious attachment style, and that comes from like insecurity. You know, you may have been neglected by one of your guardians growing up, and you know, you have trust issues and you have the fear of abandonment. So you're very scared of people leaving you, and you might overcompensate by acting anxious, overthinking, you know, that stuff. Then we got avoidant, which is my default. And avoidants catch a lot of strays because people say they act like assholes, and I must admit I was an asshole. But that's for all the unhealed people. I feel like once you get to know that you are an avoidant, you will try to find ways to not be so avoidant, you know what I mean? But if you don't know, sometimes you don't know that it's affecting other people and yourself. That's why it's important to learn about it. And then we got the secure attachment, which is like healthy relationship, like they're very secure. You already know that, I don't gotta get into that. And then we got the disorganized. So sometimes you could be anxious and fearful, but sometimes you're avoidant. You go back and forth just like that. My default is avoidance. I've been knowing from a long time that I'm very detached. Like I could go from trying to build something with someone, boom, switch off, and I can still do that. But now my attachment style is more like I treat people the way they treat me. So show me that you're genuine and all this stuff, and I will give you a secure me. Okay, give me anything else and you will get the avoidant me. Okay, we're gonna start by giving you guys a few examples. Okay, like I said, it starts from your childhood. So we're gonna talk about family first. Okay, I love my family. I feel like they had and have a lot of traumas that they didn't even know about. They didn't even know what trauma is. They just know they've been through something and whatever, life moves on. That's how they think. Okay, I feel like that's a lot of immigrant parents in general, right? But Asian families, I've been told that other people who view my circumstances with my family are just like, okay, like I thought my family was strict and whatever, closed off, but Asian families, they really are closed off. Now that is like true because, you know, growing up, like it's not very affectionate. I don't know, like I see other people being affectionate, but I don't know how to be affectionate. That was me before. I just did not do hugs. I did not do talking about my feelings, because when you're young, they're just like, you're a kid, like you're not even going through that much. You might have a bad day at school, come home, try to complain about it or vent. Okay, I get used to people calling my feelings complaining. Yeah, and they might even like deflect and just be like, oh, listen, like I already had a tough day today, and they take out their stress on you and they're like, listen, like basically I went through more stress than you, so shut up. Okay, and it still happens to this day. You know, they're still working on it. It's habits that whatever they didn't know about growing up. So I don't judge them for that. I used to be like very resentful about it, but now I'm just like, you know what? Everybody goes through things. They didn't even have that education to know what trauma is. We only know this because of social media and going to school and learning about these things. So I could learn to forgive and be understanding. But growing up, I was just not very an affectionate kid. I didn't really like talking about my feelings. I really like keeping things surface level. Even when I was younger, I had friends, making friends and whatever. Cool. Like, before, when I made friends as a kid, obviously I was more secure because it's like, oh yay, we're making friends, whatever. But growing up, when I became to realize things, I became avoidant as well. But let's just stick to the family thing right now, okay? So yeah, didn't really have that much affection growing up. Not to say that I wasn't loved, but the love that was shown for me is more financial. Like, we put a roof over your head, we bought you these toys, whatever it is, but it's not like emotional love, you know what I mean? And my parents, they're very hardworking people, you know, they had many jobs when I was growing up and whatever. So sometimes, like, I didn't really get to see them. I basically was sent off to my grandma's house a lot of the time. So that just made me avoidant in general. I did not have that affection, you know what I mean? That's not their fault. They were trying to like give me everything that I need. So obviously I'm so grateful for that. But you know, I never was an affectionate person, and I was able to really reevaluate my attachment style when my grandma passed away. Because when she passed away, I felt so much guilt because I never like hugged her, or like, I wouldn't say never, but it was like I barely did that, right? Because I never do that with people. It was very hard for me to be affectionate. Even sometimes it's so hard for me to say things. Like, I will think it like, oh, I love you so much right now, like I'm so grateful for you, but I will never say it. It's like stuck right here when I want to say it, right? Like, I just feel weird doing it because it came very unnatural for me. And like, even talking about my feelings in general, it was really hard because obviously you're getting judged. The idea that your feelings don't matter keeps getting reinforced. And it's not just my intermediate family, it's my whole family. The minute you say something, it's like complaining. So don't say it. Growing up, I was already told like, feelings, they don't matter, okay? Then when I started making friends, like I said, I was more secure because I was young and naive, and I'm like, cool, like these people are sharing things with me, I'll share things with them too. But you're a kid, like you don't know any better, you're innocent, right? Like whatever. And then I started realizing too, like, friends, they don't give a fuck about you sometimes. The wrong friends, you know? Like, you be telling them things and it doesn't matter to them. They'll do that shit again to you, okay? They'll spin the block and do it again, you know? So that really made it hard for me as well. I started realizing that in grade 8 because all the other years were like whatever. But then grade 8 came and I was like, wow, I'm going into high school, I'm realizing these things. I cannot have feelings, especially with a new change coming along. Like, I cannot have feelings. Without feelings, I'll be straight, okay? So that's how I felt. And then in grade 8, something major happened to me, where somebody in my family, like, I was very vulnerable with this person, and they completely lost my entire trust. Again, it was very hard for me. It keeps being reinforced to me that if I get close to people, I will get hurt. And not just hurt in a slight way, hurt in the biggest way possible. So going into high school, I was like, okay, there's a whole bunch of people, new faces, whatever. I am not gonna give nobody a chance to do that. I still got hurt. It doesn't matter how much you try to shield yourself, like, it's bound to happen, right? But we'll get into that. So it was really hard for me to build relationships with people. I kept it very surface level, and I had a very huge wall up. It was very hard for me to get close to more than one person at a time. So I always would like have one close friend, and I will try to work slowly on things with them because I'm like, I am very scared and I am gonna tread lightly with you, okay? And usually everybody else I keep things surface level with, you know, like we chill, we hang out, it's cool, we are in a part of the same circle, but I am not trying to get vulnerable with you. And you know, high school is real messy, so sometimes you get vulnerable with people and then you hear your deepest secrets being told by other people, and you're just like, okay, bet, like I don't want to like open up to people. And you know, I try to open up here and there, and I realize, you know, like people judge you, you know, like people will use your situations against you. But again, it's high school. I feel like everyone's so young at that time and naive and just like going through changes and stuff. So like till this day, like I just don't care. Back in the day, I might have been like, oh my gosh, wow, like I hate this shit. But now I'm just like, okay, whatever. I could see that we're all young and growing, and you know, we had a lot of growing up to do. Like we didn't know how to adjust to certain things, right? And we didn't really know ourselves too well, and it's just a pool of insecurity in high school. That's just what it is. Yeah, I don't blame people for shit like that. It's like, bro, you're young, just hope you don't do that shit in the present day. It was very hard for me to get so close to people. I'll see the way people treat other people, and that will scare me as well. I'll see the way people treat me, obviously that scares me as well. And by the end of high school, I was so avoidant to the point where when I was going through some of the heaviest things that I had to deal with, I just isolated myself from everything. I isolated myself from the world. Like, one thing that I will do is take my existence and throw it away when I experience feelings, because time and time again, I just get shown that if I have feelings, everything goes to shit. I hid myself away. I started skipping school. I didn't show up to school at all, to the point where like I didn't even go to my last semester of grade 12. Yeah, I didn't go to those exams. I just gave up. I just gave up on life. And instead of talking to people about how I felt, I just kind of like kept it to myself and dealt with it on my own, just because I was like scared to be vulnerable with people. It was actually a very sad fucking time. Looking back, I kind of knew what I was doing because I was thinking for myself, but at that time I didn't have the right tools and like the mindset to really like be confident with my decisions. Like, I couldn't even trust myself to make the right decision. So it was really hard for me at that time. So by the end of high school, I was by myself because I was skipping class, and the friends that were close to me were like, oh wow, like you're not here, like obviously I'm gonna talk to other people. Like, I do not expect people to just sit there and be there by themselves when I'm not there, especially if I'm not showing up every single day. I don't care if you make new friends, but it's the fact that they just like forgot about me in general that I was like, wow. So again, I had feelings and it ruined things. It ruined everything. It's all my fault. That just made me feel really bad about myself, just because I'm like, damn, like why do I feel so deeply? Like, it's just ruining every single thing in my life. After high school, I became a little bit fearful, a little bit anxious, because I was like, okay, now I have trust issues. Like, people are just leaving all the time, and I wanted to people please, because I was overthinking so much to the point where I was like, okay, like it has to be my fault, right? It has to be my fault. It's because I have feelings. So now no matter what, I gotta people please. No matter what, even if I'm not feeling it, if I'm not in the best mood, if I don't feel like going out, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna go, just because I don't want to lose people in my life. And that was also toxic as hell, because it's like, you gotta have boundaries for yourself. It wasn't right for me to be avoidant, but the mindset of being by yourself just to get through some of your feelings is valid, you know? And people who really love you should not leave you for that, you know? They might give you your time, but they won't just abandon you, you know what I mean? But I started having that fear of abandonment, so I started becoming a little bit anxious. I was like, damn, like, yikes. And, you know, I made new friends, and it was very hard for me during that time as well. I feel like the worst was when I was anxious, and an anxious attachment with people, because yes, I was fearful avoidant, but I feel like I was more anxious if anything, and I was always trying to like satisfy other people, make sure their needs are met, but what about mine? Nobody thinks about mine during that time, right? So I was just doing things for other people that weren't even doing anything for me. Feelings will come up, and yes, I am fearful but also avoidant at the same time. So I started becoming a little bit disorganized, and I was like, should I bring certain problems up? Should I not bring things up? I'm like, if I bring things up, it's gonna ruin everything. But then I started building connections with people, so I'm like, okay, cool, things are good, you know. Obviously when you're having good times with people, it may seem like things are good, but you will know when things are real when you bring up how you feel. I was the type of person who would always address people that I love with respect. So if you did something to piss me off, I will still respect you and address it in a way where it will not make you feel like the biggest asshole in the world, right? The way you interpret it is up to you, but for me, I feel like I was just very direct, but also like still trying to save people's feelings. Maybe you didn't mean to do this, but it really hurt me when you did this. And you know, I really would think about things for days before addressing it, just because I was like, okay, is this valid enough for me to bring it up? Because it could ruin everything. It could ruin everything. I would think about things, and if it still bothered me after 3 days, that's my cutoff. If it still bothered me for 3 days, I will bring it up, right? And every single time I brought my feelings up to somebody, it just seems like they gotta leave instead of taking accountability. And it's crazy because people will sit there and say all these things about me. They didn't like this, they didn't like that, blah blah blah, and I'll just be like, okay, bet, I'm sorry. Because bottom line, you got hurt. Doesn't matter if I intended to or not. Bottom line, you got hurt, I'll apologize for it. When I started having feelings for certain things people did to me, I just realized everyone's like, fuck you and your feelings. I'm gonna ignore it. I'm not gonna talk to you about it. I'm not gonna apologize to you about it. You're tripping. You're just being sensitive. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay. Okay. And I feel like when people seek you out and you're anxious and they know you're in your weakest moments, that's when they have the ability to hurt you the most. And that's why, you know, I will stand on being an avoidant. Obviously now I just treat people the way they treat me, but I would prefer to be an avoidant, not gonna lie. Because when you're anxious, you know, you're so in your head, you're always like overthinking for yourself and the next person. You're just like, damn, like if I bring this up, will it hurt your feelings? So I'm not just thinking about me, I'm thinking about you too. Will it hurt your feelings? But how's that fair to me? That every single time you could bring up how you feel and I let you have your moment and whatever to talk about it, and then when I bring it up, just fuck you and your feelings, basically. And I'm just like, okay, bet. Like, what is the point of me trying to please people for real? So I went back to being an avoidant just because, bro, that is my default. And sometimes I think people forget that it's easy for me to detach. When people think that you need them, that's when they start doing too much. That's when they start acting up. Matter of fact, I don't want to be around people who make me feel like my feelings don't matter, because obviously I've been going through that shit since little, right? I don't want to be around people who reinforce the idea that my feelings don't matter, because they do. How can I sit here and you have a problem with me and I could think, okay, you know what? I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to do all this shit. I value our friendship. I will apologize. But other people don't view you for shit. Other people don't view you for shit. So they will sit around and be like, I don't know, like gaslighting the shit out of you. Meanwhile, you're just here like, wow, again, my feelings don't matter. They never think of that. They never think, oh yeah, like, am I making this person feel bad? No, like, they don't. They don't. And they will gaslight you and make you feel crazy when no, that's how I feel and I will stand on it. And this is me today, healed and all. Like, I will say, if I feel something, it's valid. You should never like have to prove that you're feeling a certain way. Like, come on now, like, we're grown. But anyways, I became more avoidant. But like I said, now I just view things differently. It's friends that I've made where it's like, okay, you know what, you seem cool and you seem genuine and you seem positive, and you know what, I do have faith in you, you know? I will not even second guess your intentions because I know you're real. Like, you've shown me many times and I respect it, type shit. So it's always different from person to person, putting you all down a timeline. And like, friendships just scare me because like, so many times I told myself, it's just that person, okay? It's just that person. Everybody else, they could be different. But no, like, the minute you bring up something, people just don't know how to take accountability, which is crazy. So that's not something I want to deal with. I just taught myself, like, listen, you don't change the way you treat people. You don't change your heart. You just direct it to people who deserve it. And that's the type of shit I'm on now. Relationships, I used to be avoidant as well. It was very weird for me to be affectionate. Like, I couldn't even say babe. Like, it was really cringy to me. I've been told, like, why can't you do the little simple things in the beginning of my relationship? And I was just like, I don't know. With all of my soul, I wanted to, but I couldn't. And it was very hard for me. And it's a very uncomfortable feeling because it's like, I wanted to do it so bad, but I couldn't. My whole body will shut down and not let me do it. Obviously, taking little steps, I was able to grow into a fearful avoidant, which I don't like being fearful at all. like being anxious at all. But then, you know, when you're vulnerable with someone, you start realizing, damn, like this shit is a little bit too real. When you're an avoidant, you also self-sabotage when things are feeling too real. You're like trying to keep things at a distance because you don't want to get to that vulnerability. But I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm in too deep now. And I feel like relationships is so exclusive. It's like friendships, you could have 10 million friends, which I obviously don't. With a relationship, it's like body, mind, soul, spirit. Everything is vulnerable if you want to make it work. Like if you can't do that, then it's probably not going to work. But you got to be so vulnerable. So it took me a long time to even get there. And then when I was able to be vulnerable, it's like, damn, like, okay, you brought out a different side of me and I'm seeing it and now I'm scared. So I will detach and I will self-sabotage and I will fuck shit up on purpose just because I'm scared. This is like getting too real and I don't know if I'm ready for it. But I want it, but what is it? What is it? You know, it kind of fucked shit up when I was scared to be vulnerable as well. But when you get to a level of vulnerability with someone and you've never gotten to that level with anybody before, you get so scared of them abandoning you just because it's like, I've never had this connection with someone before. Help. Somebody help me. In capital letters, in caps lock, because I was not expecting all this shit. And then you start being codependent with them, you know, blowing up their phone, doing the most, overthinking, oh my gosh, ruining shit, self-sabotaging. That's the self-sabotage. The self-sabotage doesn't mean you have to go out and do something crazy. It could just mean like overthinking and, oh, like assuming they're doing some fuck shit, okay? Trying to find things to get mad about, things like that. So when things got too vulnerable, I would also like try to leave. I'll be like, oh, bye, deuces. And I would do this thing a lot where I would threaten to break up with someone. And it's like, I look back now and I'm like, wow, like that is so shitty of me to do. It's actually very shitty to do, just to like play with someone's feelings like that. Like I know I didn't want to do it, but I kept doing it. Anytime, you know, things were feeling too real, I was just like, nah, like the fact that you can bring me up to this level of emotions, like nah, like we're getting way too vulnerable. I gotta leave, I gotta dip. But I didn't even want to, which is the crazy thing. I'll just say it. So I didn't like that at all. And with a lot of work, I'm able to be secure now. And it's also because the way my bae is treating me. Because if you aren't treating me right, then I would not be secure. But it took a lot of work to get there and a lot of self-work as well to realize what the fuck I was doing, because I was doing a lot of stupid shit just because I was scared. I was really scared. I was always scared of having relationships with people. Like it's just scary. To this day, I feel like I'm very distant. And it takes time for me to really build relationships with people, but I feel like that's valid just because like if things happen too quickly, sometimes, most of the time, it does not last just because you didn't get to see the person's character and how they are. I try not to be avoidant. It has not done anything for me. I act like it's gonna protect me, and if anything, like I repress all my feelings and it still comes up. So I've done a lot of like work on myself to realize, okay, just move accordingly with people. You don't have to like be avoidant with everybody, but just, you know, give people the benefit of the doubt till they show you not to. You need to know your behaviors. You know, sometimes you push people away, sometimes you self-sabotage and you do things and you're inconsistent, and with the biggest urge in your soul, you want to get closer to people but you don't know how. It just takes a lot of work, and it takes like accepting it too, like just realizing what your attachment style is so you could get better. Because sometimes you think you're not doing anything wrong because you're protecting yourself, but if you want to build relationships with people, it's important to like take in account how they feel too. And obviously other people have different attachment styles, so it's like dealing with it is hard too. Dealing with it is hard. It's hard to deal with your own, then you got to deal with somebody else's. So it's good to like know somebody else's attachment style too, so you can see where they're coming from as well. That's why I'm saying social media is very black and white when it's life is gray. Like everybody's different, everyone grew up different, everybody has a different demeanor, a different personality, a different intention. Like, not everything's the same. Like, when people are like, oh, if he or she wanted to, they would. Sometimes people want to, and they just can't because they didn't like do that work to understand why they can't make that big of an effort, you know? Like, sometimes people want to, they just can't because they're scared. Sometimes they grew up with a family that's very neglectful, who didn't really like show them much love, you know what I mean? So it's very hard for them to do shit like that. But obviously it's not an excuse, you know? You gotta learn your behaviors so you could change it. Because listen, just because you went through things before in your life, it does not excuse you from being a shitty person to people now. You gotta work on yourself, because the more that we're growing up, people are not gonna give you chance after chance. You know, you just gotta figure that shit out on your own and work on it, and actively work on it. We're humans, we make mistakes, but it's important to really like lock in and be like, okay, you know what? These are a few bad things that I've seen about myself, and instead of like having self-pity about it, literally like work on it. That's just what I wanted to say. I yapped so much, but I hope that this video was more insightful than one I made when I was drunk. Honestly, I don't know now because I'm tired in this one. So it might not make sense in this one either. But I just hope that it does to somebody out there. And obviously I'm not a pro, so do your own research. I feel like I read a lot of things about this, so it's been a lot easier for me to like comprehend it, but I'm not no expert, so maybe me saying it doesn't make that much sense, but hopefully you understood something from it. And thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video.